I've been using the S22 Ultra for over 3 weeks now, and I have a lot of thoughts on Samsung's latest Galaxy device. Excluding the Z Fold 3, this is my first Samsung flagship since the Galaxy S9. So yeah, you can say it's been quite some time since I've daily drove a Samsung flagship. And all I can say is wow. Samsung has come a long way in such a short time period. I will say this, coming from the Pixel 6 Pro and an iPhone 13 Pro, this is one of the best phones I've ever used in so many ways. It definitely checks off a lot of the must-haves I need in a phone, and it pretty much excels in all the main categories that I do care for.
I don't understand why you're thinking of you had me at alone.
How's it going, everyone? My name is RJ and this is the S22 Ultra. Welcome to my long-term review on Samsung's latest flagship. If you guys want to see a lot more videos on the S22 Ultra, then do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video and of course subscribe to the channel because that would be much appreciated. I have a lot of videos in the pipeline, including a video called the best accessories for the S22 Ultra. It should be a good one, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Starting off with the design. I don't know about you guys, but I love this boxy squared off design. It's very reminiscent to that of the Note lineup, and that's probably because this phone does come with Samsung's infamous S Pen. I will say I do believe the S Pen should have been on the bottom right of the phone as opposed to the bottom left. It just feels a bit awkward to me reaching over to the bottom left to access the S Pen instead of the bottom right. I don't know, maybe just be me, but let me know if you guys feel the same way in the comments below. Despite the placement, being primarily an iPhone user, I can't begin to tell you guys how much I love having a stylus attached to my phone. But more on the S Pen and how I use it to improve my productivity a bit later in the video. The S22 Ultra stands at 6.8 inches and comes equipped with a stellar 1440p AMOLED 120Hz panel with a 240Hz touch sampling rate. The display does curve over the edges, giving the phone a very appealing aesthetic look to it, but this design isn't very practical when it comes to day-to-day usage, especially when it comes to watching video. You will notice the video does curve over the edge of the display, cutting off a bit of the content in the process, and to me I found that to be pretty annoying. Holding this phone in the hands feels like an experience worth paying $1,200 for. Samsung paid attention to all the key details that really matter when it comes to comfort. Even though the phone is tall, it's still very comfortable to hold naked in the hands and to use. It feels natural to hold the S22 Ultra in the left hand and write on the display using the S Pen with my right hand. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always looking for an excuse to whip out the S Pen and start writing stuff down in public. It for sure is a conversation starter, and it has happened to me multiple times on occasion. This is one of the best looking phones I've had the pleasure of using, quite honestly. Over on the back, we have this controversial camera ring design, and let me be the first to tell you, these cameras do collect a lot of dust and they aren't easy to clean. When you place the phone down on a table, there is an awkward wobble to it because of the cameras. This is where I highly recommend getting a case from our channel sponsor Casetify. They do make cases for the S22 Ultra, and all the cases are customizable and they are eco-friendly. I've already made a dedicated video on Casetify S22 Ultra cases, so if you guys do want to check that out, there will be a link for you guys in the description below. Now, the S22 Ultra is a beast packed with the best specs available to date. This device is featuring the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset along with 8GB of RAM all the way up to 12GB of RAM, depending on which configuration you decide to go with. And storage wise, we can go up to 1TB of internal non-expandable storage. This year, Samsung says this device has a new cooling solution. And you know what? I've tested this with hours on end of playing my new favorite game, Mobile Legends. Surprisingly, the phone hasn't got that hot. I mean, it still does get remotely hot, but not ridiculously hot where you have to put down your phone and wait for your phone to cool down. This phone is also equipped with an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner that's been really reliable in my experience. If you guys do follow me over on Twitter at RJTech, you guys already know that I'm not really a fan of in-display fingerprint readers. I'd much rather rely on a physical fingerprint reader, but this scanner found on the S22 Ultra has been great. No issues, no problems at all. I've touched base on the specs of this display a little bit earlier in the video, and to expand upon that, this display can go up to a peak max brightness of 1750 nits. That has to be the highest recorded nits on a phone I've ever used. This phone's display does get very bright, and the display is great under bright sunny conditions. It's a very readable display, and it's amazing to me that Samsung somehow manages to improve upon the best-in-class display year after year. Now that is some very impressive stuff. Now this display is an LTPO2 panel, meaning that the hertz on this phone does drop all the way from 120Hz to 1Hz when nothing is going on the display. Now I will say battery life is where this phone does fall short in my opinion. Yes, the S22 Ultra is packing a massive 5000 mAh battery despite housing an entire column for the S Pen, but it doesn't last nearly as long as my iPhone 13 Pro or my Pixel 6 Pro. I'm seeing around 6 to 6.5 hours of screen on time given my usage, and that's not nearly enough to get me through a full days of use. Of course, screen on times depends on a variety of factors, but on average I'm getting around 6 to 6.5 hours. You do have to keep in mind though, this is a pretty large display with a peak brightness that goes all the way up to 1750 nits. But for a flagship device, 6 to 6.5 hours just isn't enough. The good news is you can pick up a 45-watt charger for around $50 and get faster charging speeds. Another thing that I did notice, which I do believe is related to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, is that the standby time has been stellar. I mean, we're talking about iPhone level standby time. When the phone is not in usage, you'll at most lose around 2% battery life in a 12-hour time span. Now that is some mind-blowing stuff on Samsung's part. Let's talk a bit about the advantages of having a stylus attached to your phone. Have you ever had a random thought throughout the day and you thought to yourself that you would remember it, but you do end up forgetting it? Well, for myself personally, I have a lot of those moments, and using this phone to write down random thoughts throughout the day is very, very useful. But there is more uses to this. I usually do write down all of my shots for my YouTube videos, and just sitting down at a coffee shop and writing down all these shots I have to film for later feels like a very therapeutic experience. Now, actually writing on the S22 Ultra is as close to a real-life experience as it gets. Samsung somehow managed to reduce the latency from 9 milliseconds all the way down to 2.8 milliseconds. That is a 31% improvement in latency in just under an year. That is kind of insane. The SPen also has some cool useful features like Smart Select, Lock Screen Quick Notes, and the infamous button on the SPen to take photos. Watching content on this device is such a pleasurable experience. The speakers found on the S22 Ultra are excellent. They do get very loud with crisp sounding audio. It honestly does feel like you're holding nothing but a display in your hands when watching video. The viewing angles are great, the colors are rich and vibrant, overall a great experience. My only complaint, like I mentioned earlier, is that the display does run over the edge, which can be kind of intrusive when watching video. This year, a major change to this device from last year is the haptic vibration motors. Samsung decided to adjust the vibration motors from a Z-axis alignment to an X-axis alignment, meaning the way that the haptic vibrations travel is different. This honestly is a great change in my opinion. When typing, swiping, or holding the phone in your hands, the vibrations feel very solid, almost very similar to an iPhone-like experience. But some people have complained that when the phone is away from their hands, like in a pocket or on a table, they do miss notifications and even phone calls. I personally haven't experienced this as of yet. I've yet to miss a notification or even a phone call in over 3 weeks of usage. So overall, great haptics, one of the best vibration motors ever found on an Android, and I do stick by that. We've got to talk about the cameras. Keep in mind, this is a $1,200 phone, so I do have high expectations on the camera front. The S22 Ultra is equipped with a 108 megapixel primary camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto, and a 10 megapixel 10x telephoto. I'd say that the images coming out of this camera are definitely flagship quality, right up there with the iPhone 13 Pros and the Pixel 6 Pros of this world. I still think the Pixel 6 Pro delivers better stills when comparing the main lenses, but overall I would dub the S22 Ultra with having the most versatile camera system to date. I can't begin to tell you guys how useful it is to have a 10x telephoto that actually delivers respectable images. What I have noticed though is when switching between the 4 lenses, there is a noticeable lag, and I find this to be really odd. Another issue is shutter delay. This has been on Samsung phones for quite some time now, and it hasn't really gotten worse, but there is a noticeable delay in timing from when you click the capture button and when the actual image gets captured. So if you aren't careful, you can miss out on some crucial moments. This year, Samsung is boasting that they do have the best depth mapping system found on a smartphone. Samsung claims that they can cut out things such as an ear, a shirt, and even things as small as a human hair very precisely. And they aren't wrong. This phone has one of the best edge detections I've ever seen. Whether that be a pet or a human being, the edge detection is very good, and it rarely misses when shooting in portrait mode. What I don't particularly like is nightography, or Samsung's very own version of night mode. These images shot in the dark have a lot of detail to them with great contrast and depth. But the thing is, these photos look very bright. Brighter than what I would like. Some of these night shots look like they were shot during the day, but they were actually shot in a dark environment. I want my night shots to look like they were shot in the dark. That's just my own preference. I don't know, is that just me, or do you guys actually like the shots to be a lot brighter than they actually are? The S22 Ultra is capable of shooting 8K at 24 FPS without overheating. There is a 2x crop though, but the video quality is just stunning. And Samsung does remain at the top of the food chain in the video department when it comes to Android devices. On the software software front, I've never really been a fan of OneUI. I've always preferred the clean Pixel experience that Pixel devices have to offer. But man, Samsung has come a long way since the TouchWiz days. OneUI is stable, it's well optimized, and it's feature-packed with useful features. It's almost like OneUI merged with the best of stock Android. We now have Material You, a dedicated specific Google feed, and 4 years of software updates. That's one more year than what Google is offering on the Pixel 6, and Google is the founder of Android. I feel like overall Samsung nailed the S22 Ultra. Yes, at the end of the day it is a Note, but Samsung was on a mission and they made this particular device stand out amongst other flagships. Being primarily an iPhone user, I can say I love using the S22 Ultra. It feels like a powerful phone that's worthy of the $1,200 price tag. It's got a super high-res display, the SPen is a welcomed addition, and the camera improvements make this a worthy purchase. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will leave you guys with my Galaxy Z Fold review for 2022. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to flex with your S22 Ultra S Pen tech.